All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Dr. Coons.
Thank you.
Item 3, Councilman Spear, Councilman Allworth, discussion only, update on Porter Group efforts on behalf of the city of Ely.
I actually knew this was on the agenda, but I just got the report at 15 minutes ready, so
There you go.
it was, my highlighting is still not even dry yet. So, just a quick overview on this here. Earlier this month, the city, the mayor, myself, Ed, and BJ met with representative and the Porter Group, met with the representative office of Congressman Horsford to discuss the city's community project funding requests. These requests were the ones we identified in last month. And once again, there was 3 projects, and each project we're shooting for $2 million. They're actually about $8 million a piece, but we were told to cut it down to $2 million. So we did that. I'd really like to thank BJ and his crew for changing. It was changing so fast. Within the same day, we had 2 changes. So BJ, through his hard efforts, late hours, we got the request out to him, which Porter says the city completed the earmark submission process necessary to solicit the federal support of these projects. There's no further action needed from the city at this time. The House of Representatives will review the earmark request that they got from us, and they'll start identifying ideal candidates for the funding. And then Congressman Horsford's staff will work with the House Appropriations Committee to include them in this year's federal appropriation package. The submission process for the Senate is, as of this message right now, is undecided. You know, politicians are. Okay, that's on the big cost. Of the city of Ely's American Rescue Plan funding, last month, as all you remember, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 into law. The legislation appropriated billions of dollars in federal funding to state and local governments across the county, including the city of Ely. The funding is on its way to the city of Ely. Porter Group is working with Nevada congressional delegation and city officials to answer the questions and identify the next steps. If you recall, our allocation is $3.6 million. It will be divvied out, as we know right now, over a period of 2 years. And first handout, if you want to call it that, could be July 11th, is that right, Ed? Yeah. Okay, and the Americans Jobs Plan, that's the other thing we discussed. The Porter Group continues to work with the city officials on this here. This month, Congress has spent much time on President Biden's American Jobs Plan. It's a $2.5 trillion infrastructure investment proposal for the White House released several weeks ago. Once again, we've got plans and we've got projects that we're seeking for this earmark type funding. So every Monday, it's a very intense meeting. Ed, myself, BJ sit through it, and the mayor's invited. And the representative from Congressman Horsford office, he was really attentive to what our process and how we're doing things. And everything is going good right now. It's a little bit of a wait game, but we'll have to make the same presentation to the Senate committee when the time comes up. They're still trying to find how we're going to divvy the money out and what's going to be required. So any questions, I'll try to answer them, or I'll forward them on to Cameron.
Anything to add to that? Okay, thank you for your guys' work on that.
Thank you.
I should say one thing to echo what Jim said. I should say one thing to echo what Jim said, because there was, not last week, the week before, I think BJ was jumping through hoops that nobody should have to jump to. They were changing so fast and so quick. And BJ, I think I commend you for having most of that stuff already ready, and you just had to sit down and somehow sort it through and get it through. But this is a shovel-ready project, all 3 of them. Thanks to BJ.
Thank you. Item 4, Councilman Allworth, discussion for possible action, approval of monthly balance sheets for general fund, street fund, and enterprise funds.
I reviewed those there, and I feel comfortable things are looking really good. It's nice to look at the general fund that has, at this still early in the year, a pretty generous fund balance. If we can keep everybody working, watching their P's and Q's, and working smart, we can end up with a good fund balance again. Thank you, Treasurer Trask.
I'll entertain a motion on this approval.
Move to approve.
Motion from Councilwoman Beecher. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Spear. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5, Councilwoman Beecher, Public Works Supervisor Craycraft, discussion for possible action, acceptance of Tri-County Weed Control proposal to the City of Ely for herbicide application within city limits during 2021. SNPLMA grant funds require a 20% match from the City of Ely in the amount of $2,000. And this is the same kind of program we used last year for weed control. I understand that, yes. Do I have a,
We open for discussion, questions on this?
yeah?
Two weed seasons ago, Juan Noriega, Jose Noriega came from the Forest Service, and this was before the COVID. There was several $1 million for weed abatement. And a lot of it could have been used on the Georgetown Ranch, and then last year due to COVID, nobody done nothing with that. So I don't know if that money, majority of that money is still available. You know, that was a question, because the Georgetown Ranch, the renter, or the leasee of the ranch, there's a lot of white top out there. So I just wonder on this paper right here, is the Georgetown Ranch included in that amount? If it is, it's going to wipe it out. Last year, I know they went around, sprayed streets and so forth, and the railroad used a substantial amount of the money last year. But I'd be interested to find out if the Forest Service used their total allotment. It just wasn't all for Ely, it was all for White Pine County. Going up Lane City, there was white top all over up there. So I'm all in favor of it. The only question I have is, which grant, SNPLMA grant, is this money coming from?
Do we have any answer on that?
I do know the proposal on the table is SNPLMA funds.
But is it administered to the BLM or the Forest Service?
As I understand it, it's administered through Tri-County. They receive the money, and then they've split that into 3 years worth of grants. But I'll follow up with Jose Noriega.
Because I think that's a different program that Jose uses apart from this.
Okay.
I think this was a grant that Tri-County we got, and they've been using it around our community. Jose's program for the Forest Service, I think they have a separate pot of money that, so if this is for the city, and then we could throw some of that out of the Georgetown Ranch or some of those other areas, would probably be. You know anything about that now? Okay.
I have one question about it. You know, this white top is, you know, if we don't kill it upstream, there's no end to it. And I think I asked this question some time ago. Is the Tri-County weed allowed to go on private property? Like up the head of Mill Street, there's several private properties up there that actually just inundated with white top.
And my understanding, this funding is just for city right-of-ways and city
Okay.
property. Yeah.
That's what I was afraid of. If you don't kill it, the upstream, it don't do any good.
Speaking of that, the city has an ordinance that prohibits that type of weed, that was noxious weeds.
So if you'd like to identify those properties, Councilman Sperry, get that to the clerk, they can send letters out.
I'll give it to you.
Okay. Thank you, Ed.
If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion on this item. Motion to approve from Councilman Spear. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Allworth. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, council members, City Fire Chief Stork, discussion for possible action. Acceptance of Grecian Uvalde's offer of $200 to purchase engine 7's 8 tires and rims. Previously advertised, the City Council granted approval for Fire Chief to seek offers on these tires March 11th, 2021.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Councilman Allworth, second from Councilwoman Beecher. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, council members, City Fire Chief Stork, discussion for possible action. Approval of the following addition to the City of Ely Emergency Medical Services consent for treatment form. By signing, I am accepting responsibility for any debt created by this service and on all collection fees, charges, and interest should this debt be sent to an outside agency for collections. Chief Stork, do you want to add anything on this?
So this was entertained by our billing company, and contrary to Mr. Chassis's belief, it's not trying to bankrupt anybody. The biggest problem we got right now with people that go to collections are people from out of this area. They're traveling through, they get in a car wreck, they're traveling through, they're staying at a hotel motel, and they need our service, we go do it. They leave and they think, I'm never going through Ely, Nevada again, so why should I worry, I'm not paying the bill. And so those are the ones that get turned to collections. And that's where, you know, 90% of them that are in collections are people from outside of White Pine County. So part of the deal was that if we put in the fees that the collection agency charges us, then we get our full amount that we're out and not, you know, the collection agency gets their fee on top of it.
So this wording is a recommendation from our billing company?
This is a recommendation from our billing company. And they had 3 different things, and I went over them with Shane, and this was the one that we felt would probably fit the best to put on the paperwork.
Any further questions on that for the fire chief? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I would like to make a compliment to our fire chief here. About 2 weeks ago, when I was coming back from Salt Lake, kind of having my eye out, right past the Cherry Creek turnout, maybe 5 miles past the turnout there. As we went by, there was a Jeep-looking vehicle on fire, and there was a U-Haul truck there and a couple other cars, and they said, well, we've got taken care of it, so don't worry about it. Anyways, I was further traveling in towards our community. I saw the fire truck, the fire chief's fire truck, the very first on the road going to that. After that was a water truck, and then a fire truck, and about 3 miles outside of the hill, I finally saw a highway patrolman. I got to commend our fire chief for acting as fast as he did to get to that scene. I think you know which one I mean.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you and your staff.
Okay. Duly noted.
We have a motion from Councilman Albert for approval.
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Beecher. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. We'll move on to item 9, public comment. Please state your name for the record and we'll have 2 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, the place I left off was the marijuana dispensary still not compliant. You also have a continuing problem with Mr. Carson renting RVs in his trailer park. He started off with 1, then he went to 3, and now we've got 6, 2 of which are stacked in violation of fire code. Can't do that. The selective enforcement of the law is causing locals to go out of business. In particular, the Appalachian Trailer Park is up for sale. She can't make the street, she can't make it because the city selectively enforces its rules and regulations. I've told you the building inspector, Brad Christensen, is the single largest detriment to growth in Ely and White Pine County. Again, you either have rules or you don't. Quit the selective enforcement. I want a copy of that Porter report also. I'd like to talk to those people about discrimination. Mr. Chairman, how many discrepancies do I have to bring before you do something with Brad Christensen? You got rules and regulations in regard to animals. Nothing's been done. Curb and gutter sidewalk has to be concrete, not asphalt. You got derelict buildings next to a playground, attractive nuisance. On Avenue M, you still have construction waste sitting by the wayside. The first time I reported it was back in November 25th of 2020, and I reported not only to you folks, but the Planning Commission. Poor commission, my God. Latest is April 20th, same conditions. On Avenue, on the Railroad Way, Mr. Bassett, fire hydrant is 2 feet past the curb and gutter. The new curb sidewalk is about 8 feet. Standards, what for? Former city attorney, no building permit. Mr. Allworth, no home occupation. You go on and on. Mr. Mayor, at numerous meetings, City Council and RV as well, I've reported squatters. You have people moving in and out. This is a on Main Street, just a little distance away from Nardi's.